Hello everyone, and welcome to the online roundtable discussion organized by the Contemporary Ukraine Studies program at the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies, the University of Alberta, in cooperation with the International Association for Political Science Students, Ukraine branch, and Vasil Stus Donetsk National University. My name is Alexander Pankeyev. I'm a research coordinator and editor-in-chief of the Forum for Ukrainian Studies, an online analytical publication project of the already mentioned Contemporary Ukraine Studies program. This event provides platform for Ukrainian students to reflect on Russia's war against Ukraine and speak about it from their perspective as witnesses, young citizens, and future professionals in their fields of study. The host of today's discussion is Dr. Natalia Hanenko-Friesen, Director of the Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies. Before I transfer the floor to Dr. Natalia Hanenko-Friesen, a reminder to our online audience that you can pose your questions using the Q&A window located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Dr. Hanenko-Friesen, your floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introductions. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are right now in the world. Today we have a unique opportunity to listen to Ukraine's next generation of scholars, professionals, and future policymakers. Our guests come from various parts of Ukraine and represent a number of academic homes, diverse areas of study, philosophy, journalism, public relations, international relations, political sciences, and some of them are even specializing in the study of political technologies. What a timely topic to explore in the context of today's global geopolitical conflict and Putin's war on Ukraine. We also have in the room our young colleagues, students directly affected by the war, individuals who are willing to share their perspectives and their experiences with broader international audiences. I commend you, dear presenters, for seeking opportunity to speak out. I thank the International Association for Political Science Students Ukraine branch for partnering up with Contemporary Ukraine Studies program at the Institute. And I'm humbled to be in this room with you today. And I'm glad that our Institute and CUSP, our program on Contemporary Ukraine Studies, can serve you as a platform, as a майданчик для розмови, so this conversation can take place. As Alexander has mentioned, our discussion will take place in the form of a round table, but also questions and answers will be then accommodated from the audiences. And let me say a few words about how we will work today. I will first ask our 8 presenters to say a few words about themselves. We will ask them to present themselves in alphabetical order. That will probably be about 5 minutes. Then we will address 3 questions, again, in the form of the round table. And I will be giving the floor to our presenters. And then, dear members of the audience, will turn to your questions via Q&A, and those you can provide in the chat. So we are scheduled to work here with this roundtable for an hour and a half, and that's our goal to be done with the event within that time frame. With this said, allow me to now introduce or give the floor to our participants and our guests in the room today. Would you please, my dear fellow future researchers and fellow future professionals, start introducing yourself. Bogdana?
Greetings, thank you for having me today. My name is Bogdana Doma. I'm a third-year student at the National University of Lviv Polytechnic, undergraduate majoring in international relations and public relations. While science has always been my passion, for the last 2 years, my scientific activity has been focused on studying world values and ideological political parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Irina, would you take over?
Yes, of course. So greetings to everyone. My name is Irina. I'm 19 years old. I'm a student of Vasil Stus Donetsk National University. I study applied political science and political technologies. And now we can say that we live in historical period So nowadays, I'm not only a student. Nowadays, I'm Ukrainian, which also help my country as far as I can.
Thank you very much. With us in the room, there would have been Artyom Olinik, a student from Kyiv Taras Shevchenko National University. I understand, Dmitro, that Artyom has difficulties connecting. Right, so if he comes on board, we will welcome him into this room. But for now, I will ask Valeria to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Lera. I'm 21. I live in Vinnytsia. It is a central part of Ukraine, and I'm a future journalist, but right now I work in social media marketing, and I'm really happy to communicate with you today. So nice to meet you.
Thank you very much, Lera. And Alyona.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyona. I'm 20 years old, and I'm from Vinnytsia too. I'm a fourth-year student of Donetsk National University. I study journalism, and also I work as a screenwriter. And I'm glad to meet every one of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And Dmitro, you'd be next. Thank you.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Dmitro Shkurko. I'm 21 years old, and now I'm undergraduate majoring in philosophy, and I'm finishing my bachelor studies in philosophy. And I will be happy to answer all of your questions and to communicate with all of you today.
Thank you very much. I think we now have to have Elena speak and introduce herself. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alana. I'm a student of Donetsk National University. On the third year undergraduate majoring in applied political science and political technologies. I live in Vinnytsia, but now I am temporarily in Germany. And thank you so much for this unique opportunity.
Thank you, Elena. Alexei, you'd be the next person. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Alexei. I'm doing Masters in Public Policy at the University of Saskatchewan. I'm in my second year, and prior to coming to Canada, I did my undergraduate program in political science at Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv, and I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you very much. It's been important for us to hear where you are from, what schools you're representing. Let's dive in. And as I've mentioned, we have about 3 questions to cover first as a group, and then we'll open up the floor for the discussion. Allow me to ask you my first question. As a professor and cultural anthropologist, I spent much of my academic career creating educational opportunities for Canadian students to discover and learn about Ukraine and Ukrainians. And working with many bright students and seeing them succeed in life has been indeed a highlight of my academic career. So I am speaking to you as a professor who works with your peer group in classrooms. And I cannot stop thinking how much must have changed in the lives of students in Ukraine right now. Can you share with us, what are you focusing on these days, both as individuals and also as members of your various student organizations? And some of you are representing one of those organizations. Thank you very much. Do we have takers? Valeria.
You are right. It's really terrible times in Ukraine. But as I said before, I live in Vinnytsia and it's quite safety now. So I continue work, and I want to tell you about my job in Vinnytsia during the war. I work as an SMM specialist at the co-working and event space. In the early days of the war, our team decided to work as volunteers. We helped people who come to our city from hotspots to find apartments for rent or for free, and we're still doing it. We adapted our offices for hostels, and we tried to find all the necessary stuff for our internally displaced people. Then we realized that all our plans that we want to release before the war are crushed. our leader decided to help our citizens, so we started to organize events for first aid, and we still do it. Also, our team has a lot of requests from foreign countries to tell how Ukrainian businesses adapt to war. And I wrote different articles and even create videos to talk about our changes. As for student community, of course, we work for information front. We write only about war and different processes that occur in our country. Right now, I'm working on an analyzing article about brands who are still working in Russia, and I try to understand if the brand can be apolitical. I really admire our students because they think like real adult journalists, even though they are just finishing their fourth year of bachelor. And now all our work is not about money. It's about winning and helping our people to have and helping our people who have lost their homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Valeria. I think, Alexei, you were second. I believe you were the second person to hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, so for sure, as a student, I'm swamped with some research issues that I have to do. But at the same time, I'm a part of Ukrainian Canadian Congress here in Saskatoon, and we're doing a few fundraising campaigns. Unfortunately, we do not really raise like a huge amount of monies, but so far we do what we can. And together with that, we try to share information about Ukraine, about all this invasion with people living in Saskatchewan, because we feel like, specifically through our school, through Johnson Shoyama Graduate School, just to tell the story. Because sometimes stories make really a tremendous impact on people's thinking, and we believe that even like a few stories, a few posts, a few voices might be and will be heard by the public. So far, the UCC Saskatoon branch is cooperating with the municipal government here in Saskatoon. That's what I know, and they plan to send a plane to Ukraine with medications and some other supplies. I'm not aware of these supplies, but I'm pretty sure about medications. Yeah, and we'll just continue what we are doing right now, and we hope that everything will be reached to Ukraine, will be shipped to Ukraine, and people will get what they need.
Thank you very much, Alexei, for your reflections from Saskatoon. Alona, would you please join us?
Thank you. Since the full-scale war in Ukraine, I tried to be focused on volunteering, because that's really helped me at those moments, and this helped me now. At start, it was a second day of this war, and I volunteered at the place where our territorial defense is local. Territorial defense, in other words, they are soldiers, and I try to help them. Actually, they are the most cutest people in this time I met. After that, I try to volunteer. I volunteer with my friends and their parents at volunteer centers. We sorted out humanitarian help, and we weaved camouflage nets for our army. And now I try also concentrate on my studies, because I'm a graduate this year, and I try to be concentrate. I'm concentrating on my work. I know that many Ukrainians lost their work because of the full-scale war, and partly me too. But when I have work, I try to work to help our economy and to donate armed forces of Ukraine, because they protect us, and I am alive because of them. So I understand I must help them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alona. Yeah, what a change in story after story. Olena Zinko, you were next. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, when I was in Ukraine, I have volunteered and organized fundraiser for medical supplies and gave it to a military hospital. Also organized a fundraiser for military equipment, and I was a member of volunteer organization Kvadrat. And now I help to Ukrainians here in Germany, because there are a lot of people here and a lot of women with young babies. So they all need our help, and it's terrible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bogdana, I see your hand going up.
Thank you. Well, currently I present a few organizations. Right now I'm staying in Ukraine, and I do understand that I should help right now and at this current place. Well, for example, one of the organizations what I do represent, Union of Women of the Region. We're actually based on helping women with their kids, children with disabilities, because they are sensible during these circumstances, and other things. Also, we help with some. We bring some financial help and other. Also, with other organizations, we provide an informational support or all possible ways to inform international society about what's going on, about the true things. Also, I can say my favorite part of all the things what we did, that together with this Students' Council at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, we recorded a real and true answer to the video what recorded Moscow State Institute International Relations students. Actually, it was for us a new experience, because mostly of us didn't even speak Russian, but during shelling and bombing, we actually just write the text and learning Russian just to record this one. So yes, each of Ukrainians who are currently staying here or abroad, like each of us are trying to bring as much help as we can do. And actually, every one of us feel like we do not make enough. We can do more. We should do more. This feeling what is making us working more, sleep less, and at least do everything what can help to our Ukrainian citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see more hands going up, and I am immediately reflecting on the fact that none of you is actually focusing on the fact that you might be still studying. Are you still studying? On top of all the responsibilities you have taken upon. Thank you. We probably could have an opportunity to return. We might have an opportunity to return to that as well later, but let's stay with the plan and move to the next question. And at this particular point of our conversation, let's move into the domain of your professional training. And my second question concerns your your professional take or perspective on the profound changes that Ukrainian society is currently undergoing, of course, as a result of being directly drawn into this bloodiest war since World War II. And here in the West, we hear in the media that the war has had a unifying effect on Ukrainians, their sense of identity, sense of nationhood. In your opinion, how will this war change the Ukrainian political landscape? You are, after all, many of you are in the domain of political sciences. What effect that war might have on key political constituencies, parties, players in Ukraine, after, of course, Ukraine wins this war? How much of a unifying momentum will see continuing? Thank you. Dmytro, thank you.
I would like to say that we are now living in one of the most important historical events that will our children, and the next generation will learn. And I like to say that for us Ukrainians, we're now like in a sacred time of forging again our nation, because if we look through different historical events, we can see that our nation is always forging. We are going through a very difficult situation. We can see, for example, Mongol Tatar situation, then difficulties with, for example, Poland, Cossacks, then Russian Empire, and then Soviet Union, First World War, revolution of 1917, then again Holodomor, Red Repression of the Stalin, Second World War, then again repression, again Holodomor. In 1944, there was deportation of Crimea Tatars, because Soviet Unions think that they were like enemies of all of our nation, and we're going through really difficult situation. But they didn't broke us as nation. We always like stand for our freedom, stand for the freedom of speech, and of course it's nowadays. If we took like somewhere in the past, for example, in 2014, we also can say that that time also was for us like a sacred time, because after the revolution of dignity of Euromaidan, we can say that we again we rethink of what nation is, what Ukraine is, what Ukrainian people is, what our, for example, like key points that makes us different from, for example, like from Russian people, and why we have more historical ties with European Union, more with Europe, more than, like, for example, with Russian Federation. And I like to add one thing, that even in the end of the February, when Russian Federation declares that they said, okay, quasi formations like Lugansk and Donetsk republic, they are, for example, like independent. Even in that time, most of the scientists, for example, in our country, we even didn't think that so-called East brother called Russia will begin a full-scale invasion on our territory. And when on the 24th of February 2022, my grandma wakes me up telling me that our Borispil International Airport was bombed, and then I wake up and I hear the sirens. I and all of Ukrainians, we in some way we didn't even understand what is going on. And after this, like, it goes for somehow hours and days, and only then we understand what is going on and in what situation we are now. And in the future, our country will begin, if not the most powerful, but one of the most powerful countries in Europe. And our country finally will have those will be respected as I think it should be, and we will become a full member of European Union. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think, Bogdana, you'd be next person. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to point that really Ukrainian nation during these weeks become more united than it was. If we even turn back to the mood of the nation and relationship inside our country before the war, we can really highlight that we were artificially divided along the Dnipro River into the left part of Ukraine and into the right part of Ukraine, and by using some Russian content, or also by spreading Russian language, etc. By listening this kind of sources, we have this border between our left and right part of Ukraine more larger. So I guess this was the aim of Vladimir Putin by making it, because he was, I guess, he was sure that he could just easily take a part of Ukraine what are Russian speaking, because as he said, he come to protect Russian speaking people. But in fact, we see the other picture, because even the Russian speaking people also are dying, and they actually wanted to be a part of Ukraine, but not part of Russia. So this is important, and reflecting what actually will be the political climate in Ukraine after the war. Well, this is just my opinion. I'm open to hear maybe some your thesis, or maybe some questions will be asked about this, but actually this is what I do think. So the first one, I think that all pro-Russian parties actually will be abandoned in Ukraine, maybe on the same level as Nazi political parties or some USSR parties, as it is in most countries of the world. So I guess pro-Russian parties in Ukraine will be abandoned at the same way. Also, I guess that these political parties and their leaders who were before the war in Ukraine and support Russian, and actually through their speeches, through their policy, through the using of Russian language and other pro-Russian theses, they also will receive some radical rule of law from Ukraine, because actually they bring this Russian peace to Ukraine. They were a representative of this Russian peace, as it called, but in Ukraine. So I guess they also will receive this the true one thing. But from Ukrainian government. Also, I do think that the level of respect, the level of pride to our country will spread through the all spheres. I guess the more spheres become more nationalist, and perhaps the national political parties who support the program of nationalists will take a more popular level than other parties in Ukraine, because actually we can see even through our citizens right now how what a huge way of spreading our national spirit is. So after the war, after our victory, I'm sure it's gonna be our victory, this spirit of nationalism will be much more stronger than it is right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Olena.
Yeah, thanks. Well, in my opinion, this war has had a really unifying effect on Ukrainians. And in the East Ukraine, we can already see this unity. A lot of Russian-speaking people have started to speak Ukrainian, and we all seem to remember our Ukrainian roots and spirit of freedom. And about key political parties and players in Ukraine, I am sure that will increase pro-Ukrainian parties, because in past we had a lot of pro-Ukrainian parties, not pro-Ukrainian parties. For instance, we had a pro-Russian party, and it was a second party in our parliament. And it shows that a lot of Ukrainians were for Russia. Now we have the reason of moral, and it's our home, and we're ready to show it. Everybody knows that truth is on our side, and goal will triumph.
Thank you for your answer, Olena. I think, Alexei, you'd be the next person to take the floor.
Yeah, I have a few thoughts about that. First, I have to say that it occurs to me that wars bring as like negative factors, as destroyed cities, refugees, as some positive changes as well. And I do hope that this particular war will, first, this war has already destroyed the previous customs, the previous state of things, and in a way, this war destroyed the so-called path dependence. And after this war, like there is, I think there is no path for institutions, like in terms of institutions, in terms of government entities, and this is a good thing. Like it's just personal opinion, because further we don't have any, like, let's say, prejudices how we should build our institutions after. And I do hope that after this war, all the democratic changes that were, let's say, they were partial or they were not finished, they will be finished like immediately, because like there is nothing to do. There's nothing else to do. Also, another thought about that is that before the war, I do remember that people and politicians, particularly, they didn't think about Ukraine as as an independent country, because all discussions, they were about political unions. So we have to be with either European Union or with that Russian trade union. And due to this war, and this particular war shows that actually nobody will really help you, like significantly, and only like you should do it by yourself, because weapons are good, monies are good, but monies and weapons, they will not win the war if people don't want to fight, if people don't understand why they are doing that. And I do believe that currently Ukrainians at least get these understandings, and politicians also have this clear understanding that they are responsible for that country, and that Ukraine is not just another part for either EU or to Russia. It's an independent country, because it's a pretty huge country in terms of other European countries. And yeah, it might change something. In terms of political parties, that's pretty interesting question to me, because I think that the phrase Russian-oriented party or Russian-related party will be seen as a coarse word. So it will be just disgusting to support that. Thank you.
Thank you for your insights. Irina, I think you're next on my screen. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to start with that. I agree with my colleagues, and I want to add that I also think that pro-Russian parties and politicians, or even pro-Russian bloggers, will be, if not forbidden in Ukraine, they will have no favor as it was before. And I think that it will be not only in political field. I think that it could spread on the other fields, because Ukrainians are very hearted and they very angry because war is very, this war is very difficult for us, and it is just terrible. So I think it is clear. And also, I think and hope that after the war, Ukrainian government will start to control informational space about the Ukraine better and write in accordance with state borders. It is very important because there were a lot of fake news, false historical facts, and from Russia, and they were widely spread both openly and hidden. And one more thing that I hope that the majority of people on the earth will know that Ukraine is not Russia. Ukraine is not the part of Russia, because unfortunately before there were many people who still think that Ukraine is just some part or some part of Russia. And when we said I'm from Kiev, they asked us, oh, it's near Russia, yeah? So I think that it is very important. I agree that it is very important to all the world know that Ukrainians are other. It is other nation, and I think that it will be. I hope and I'm sure that it will be so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is very reassuring to hear what you have to say on so many counts. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. We will move on with our agenda, and we will now look at the third question. And I'll try to enunciate. I know some of our audiences don't really hear myself very well for some reasons. I apologize for that. So back to the third question. So right now in this virtual room, we have people living and working in two distinct worlds. We are connecting with you from Canada. Of course, we know Canada as a middle power of the Western nations, and you are representing Ukraine. You are the voice of Ukraine. What do you think the West needs to hear from your generation of Ukrainians right now? Amazing. We have many responses coming up. So Valeria, please, let's start with your answer.
Yeah, I want to say some words to new generation, to a future of Western countries. I just want to say that no one of you can't be apolitical. Here in Ukraine, we have a lot of examples when bloggers, musicians, creators, businessmen said that they remain neutral. And when the war started, we all realized that no one can't remain neutral. It's only two ways. You are on the motherland side, or you are on the side of the enemy. I want you to understand that all of us can change this world. And your mind's position is really valuable for your country. You are a future of your country, and only you, new generation, can improve your life and the life of your country. We have two examples. Ukrainians, people who want to be independent, who want to stay with European countries, who want to be better today than yesterday, who love Ukraine more than anything, who are ready to fight for our motherland. And we have Russian people who just accept the instructions of the authorities, who don't want to see the other side of the coin, and who just afraid to do anything, who can't find a logical connection at all. You should just choose what side you are preferring. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dmitro.
My words will be that nowadays, in this time, at this minute, our military are protecting not only our country as Ukraine, but they're and our future, but they're protecting future of all European and of all the countries in the world. I want the new generation to understand that For now, as one of our ministers of Ukraine said, that all shields are gone, and we now see that Russian Federation is again doing things that in some ways are even more horrific than the Third Reich were doing. We see, in some ways, we can even see that the Putin speech and Hitler's speech are in the same way. They are familiar between. When I was reading an analytic, and there was said that when Hitler announced full-scale war against Poland on the 1st September 1939, he also said that they also wanted to protect their nation, and they don't want to spread some misbehavior towards them. And Putin's speech on in the night on the 24th of February, he also said some similar things. He said that that he wanted to protect those people who are living in Ukraine and speak Russian. But I want you to all understand that we don't want to be protected by Russian Federation. We don't want to be saved, like he said, like Putin said, from Nazis. We are a free nation. We are a free country. We have so many things that, for example, Russian Federation didn't have. And I think that one of the reasons that of his aggression towards us, that he see that we are more democratic than his country. We are more free than them, and that makes think Putin that if he will not conquer us, the same things can be in Russian Federation. But we all now see that people of Russian Federation, they are weak, because they cannot, because I'd assume that many of you seen a video where there was a crowd of Russians, and they were running from a guy, I'm sorry, with a stick. And that shows us and the whole world that they afraid only for one people, while our people are without guns. They're protecting us, and they're stopped. You also seen videos when they are with their arms stopped Russian tanks from the invasion. They are going in large crowds, and they are telling Russian army to go away because it's not their territory. It's how's like to say, because Russian Federation here now is our enemy, and it not only now. It's our Russian Federation and Russian people and Russian government. They are always have been our enemies. We can see it throughout history, like Russian Empire, Soviet Union, Tsardom of Moscow. And for now, we need to understand that if we don't conquer and if we don't win in this war, then Russian Federation won't stop only at our country. It will go to Poland, to Baltic countries, and who knows where can they already gone, because as we can see, like Putin's social media already says that they won't stop on Ukraine. It's like their we can say it's like their first step. And for now, I want you to understand that we are protecting not only ourselves, but also your future, your freedom of speech, and your lives. And for now, as we can see that, and we and our military, we need, for example, like tanks, anti-rocket systems, and that's what government of Europe and United States and Canada can bring to us to protect not only ourselves, but the whole world, and to help destroy Russian Federation in total. Because if we won't destroy Russian Federation now, who knows what will happen in the near future. and we don't know that, and we need to act now to not only to protect our country as Ukraine, but to protect the whole world, and to not make the people make the things even worse. We in the Second World War, in the Second World War, Hitler was defeated, and the same situation is in some way it's a similar situation to us in nowadays. Russian troops, they cannot even seize, they cannot even take under the control many towns, for example, like Kiev, Sumy, Kharkiv, even Mariupol. It's our hero town that after the month of the seas, it's already under our flags, and that shows that our military is stronger than them. That the second army of the world shows that they're not the second army of the world. They are weak. They even cannot fight. So for now, it's our chance to already fight them and to destroy them totally.
These are very powerful words. Thank you. Bogdana.
Thank you. Well, we are representative of Ukrainian youth, and it is really important for us to convey our words. The first one, I wanted to highlight that Ukraine has never been part of Russia by mental, ideological, or values aspect. Throughout history, just only a territory of our country has been captured by Russian, but to be Ukrainian means to be a part of a special nation, because our territory can be occupied, but it is impossible to destroy us as a nation with our values, our history, with our language. Russia failed many times to assimilate us, Ukrainians, with them during this 300 years when the territory of Ukraine was occupied and being a part of different transformation of Russia. And yes, they being mad of that thing that we never give up. So through this bloody history, they shooting us, killed us, making genocide of our nation, and they can make it just for if you speak Ukrainian, for example, or read some Ukrainian books. Now our story is repeated, and the Russia is committing genocide on our land right now. And because of the same thing, what do we have in our DNA? We are still do not give up. And we want to protect our motherland, and just for that thing we are again being killed. The genocide of Russian towards us are creating one more time, and we are basically we Ukrainians destroyed in most brutal ways by the hands of Russian. But yes, I want to also ask the world that it is really important to support Ukraine, not just during this war. It is also important to support us after our victory. And right now I want to say some words, what I actually grow in my heart since 2014 year when the Crimea Peninsula, Donbass and Luhansk were occupied by Russian, temporarily occupied by Russia. And at 2022 year, I did realize that this world is really having their sense. I'm not overthinking. I come to the thing like the Russians are deeply unmoral, and this is real, and this is unconscious trauma to them. It's really make some complex, bring some national complex to them, and make them behave in this way, like they bring their problems to the other nations, and they do not try to solve their problems and other things inside their country. It's easier to blame their authorities, what actually they do change. And if they want to change these authorities, they're just acting like slaves who are actually okay, except all kind of bad behavior, their authorities towards themselves, what is not good. It is really a trauma of the whole Russian nation, who are actually do not really feel themselves as a nation in their land. And I want to also call the word to this sentence, what I will tell the next, that we all need to learn how to talk to them, to Russians, to Russian Federation, and how actually we should learn how to curb their ambitious and aggressive appetites that Russian will continue to mature. Evil should not be tolerated, because if we tolerate this evil, we will make this evil more grow and grow their appetites. So actually the world help this evil in face of Russia to grow and to make what he is making right now. So we should to learn to not tolerate the evil. We should to fight with evil, and we should actually destroy this evil, because we do realize this is a high level of this tolerance, just making him more mad, not only to Ukrainians, it turned into madness to the whole of the world. So we should be united and protect what is important for us together. We protecting the important things for us. This is our motherland, our relatives, our country, our language. And just if the rest world sees our example, we will ask you to also to be united and protect yourself, to not have the same war as we do have right now. That's why it is important to be unite with us, because together we can destroy this evil. What is important? Thank you.
Thank you for these words again, Bogdana. Alena.
Yes, as for me, as for Ukrainian, it's so important that people abroad don't just say we are for peace, or we are against the conflict in Ukraine. For me, it's so important that people abroad, when they talk about Ukraine, for me, it's so important that people be not afraid to call the current events in Ukraine a war, because it's a war, not a conflict, but it's a war. It's equally important that people abroad don't forget to mention Russia as an aggressor, namely Russia and the Russian people, not only Putin, because they are a threat not only to the freedom of Ukraine, but a threat to the entire civilized world. For example, I followed in Instagram one British actor, and it was fourth or third day of the full-scale war in Ukraine. And at first Insta stories, this actor texted, war is awful. I want to support Ukraine. I support all Ukrainians. And after that, I was so happy because I feel support when I watched last stories of this actor. And at last story Insta story is about, but don't forget, Putin is bad, but simple people are innocent. And that's not true, because all Russian people are innocent, are guilty, because all of them pay taxes, and that means they finance the Russian army. More of them really agree with the regime in Russia. And for me, as for Ukrainian, to hear that only Putin is bad, but other Russians are innocent. For me, it's very unpleasant. I'd also like to say that, of course, in Ukraine, we have great flaws. We have really many victims, many killed civilians, including children. But I would like the Ukrainian people in the world to be spoken of not as a victim, but as fighters, because we are really fighting for our freedom and for our lives. And we've been fighting not only since 24 February, we've been fighting since 2014. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that I'm really grateful to the Western world for its support to Ukraine, for those who support our refugees, and for those people who organize meetings, and I'm so grateful for those people who go to these meetings where people ask NATO to close the sky, because it's really important for us, for all of us. And this is not only the way to peace in Ukraine, but also to peace in the whole civilized world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Olena, I think you wanted to add a few words, right?
Yeah, thanks. Well, Ukraine is only 30 years old, is a young country, and Ukrainians want to be independent. We love a spirit of freedom. Russian occupants have killed more than 100 children already. They are killing our people right now, but we don't afraid them. We want to be free, and we will rebuild every house, and will be happy in our country. And the truth is really on our side. And don't be afraid to say your opinion. It's very important right now. Thank you.
We have heard a series of very powerful statements from our panelists, but also from the analysts, our future colleagues here. Thank you very much for your reflections, for your wisdom, and for your messages. I know many of our audience, many of people in our audiences are very attentive to what you have to say, and some questions have been coming in. I would like to turn now the table around, so to speak, and let our audiences ask you a question, and I'll read a few comments first. Let me just locate those. They seem to be shifting here, and I'll try to speak out. Comes from an audience. Listening to these young people speaking positively and hopefully about the future of Ukraine makes me feel more optimistic about the results of this sickening war. Thank you. So those are the comments. The other question, again from the audience, concerns all of you, and it's very straightforward and simple one. Have your career plans been under revision right now? How did this war made an impact, or has an impacted you as in your future career plans? That was the question from the audience. Anybody wants to briefly address those? Bogdana?
Yes, thank you for such a question. When I start study international relations, I basically first or second course of my university, I think who I want to be. I want to be a politician, a diplomat. Actually, what is my kind of field where I want to work? And yes, this war is really making me commit that I really wanted to be a diplomat, to protect my country, to be this a powerful ghost, because diplomats are making a lot of shadow of things what are really useful to the country, and they're really dealing with a huge amount of things what are really important for our country. So I wanted to protect my country from the way what is the best for me. This was using my knowledges, this was using my maybe good speaking skills and others. So I want to be useful to my country. And yes, this war is really making me clear what is mine, what is not mine, and what should I learn to be a better specialist to help Ukraine. Thank you so much.
Very insightful. Thank you. Metro.
Actually, I have a different thoughts, but for now, as I've been finishing my study in bachelor degree of philosophy, and looking at the time, then I was deciding who I wanted to be. For some reasons, even I have, for nowadays, I even don't have an answer to question, but the whole situation that work, even that we'll say, even that we see that there's some different processes between Russia and Ukraine, where, for example, yesterday there was a conference, so-called conference between Ukrainian delegation and Russian delegation. We still can see that in some way, in maybe very slow, even difficult way, but the diplomacy is still working. But we can see that the diplomacy is, for now, that I can see that diplomacy is only working on our side, not on the side of the Russian Federation. I think that all of you seen that video appeal of students of Russian State University of International Relationships. And when I watch this video, I understand that international relations, diplomacy, and all these things that are connected to the politics, 99% for sure that the diplomacy is ended in Russian Federation. There are no diplomacy. There are nothing that left in that terroristic country, because, for example, they've been using station of Hitler. When the diplomacy stopped working, the war begins, and they are using this speech, and at the time they're calling our nation Nazist. And this is also a very important point, because it's my opinion that they cannot even understand the difference between Nazism and nationalism. They don't understand the statements, and then they think that if we are speaking for our country, that we have, for example, like pro-Ukrainian positions, that we are always go, for example, in Ukraine for the 30 years of our independence, we have 3 revolutions. 1991, it was revolution on granite. 2004, it's like Orange Revolution. And 2014, it's a revolution of dignity. And in the way of revolution, our nation always forged. It shows us in the different ways, because it's, as I already said, there's a sacred time for different nation, but we are talking for ours, for our nation. And all of this situation shows me that I still want to, and I would like to be a people who is a person who is connected to the diplomatic different states, for example, like represent one of my biggest dream is to represent Ukraine in the United Nations organization, because for nowadays we've seen that this organization is one of the most powerful field where you can use all of your knowledges, all of your speeches, all of your ideas to represent, not only to represent for the most of the time your country, and to show to other nations, to other countries that here we are, here with our position, here with our thoughts. You can listen to us. You can be disagree, because you can be disagreeing. It's okay. But when you disagree and doing it in aggressive form like that, like it's doing the Russian Federation, not now, but beginning with 2014, we're seeing that they are still not understand the whole situation in our country. And when I read the different questions about where you have been when 8 years ago Donbass was bombing, I rethink the time, and I remember the thing that, for example, in my school, we, for example, raises money, seeing the special meditions for our military who was protecting those regions at that time, and they are still protecting us, and we all seen that the future plans of all of Ukrainians have been, as it was said several times, they've been crushed. But we are now rethink what we want, who we want to be in the future, what we wanted to do, and it's in 99%, it's correlating with those statements that Ukraine must be free, it must be independent. And for example, it's like the I don't know, it's like in some way it's a meme situation, because before the 24th of February, you have like the different opportunities to go abroad, to study, for example, in international universities, and now you also have. But as we see, many of our, especially young generation, they don't want to go somewhere, they want to stay here. They wanted to fight for their free. They wanted to fight for their democratic basis. They want to rebuild again our country, to make it more beautiful, to make it more powerful, and to show the whole world that we are still a powerful nation, because we still are those who in some way still needed to be respected by other countries, because as we have seen even now that some countries are still saying that Ukraine is something that not must be, for example, in European Union or like others. But we needed to be there. We needed to show. We needed to raise our voice and tells we're Ukrainians. We are those who must have a better future than now. We must be more independent, for example, in Russian Federation, and we need to show the world that they are citadel of democratic basis of the whole world. That's what I thought.
Thank you, Dmitro. We're still answering the question about how the war affected the career plans of yours. I think, Alena, you'd be my last person to address this question, because we have others to reflect on. Thank you.
Okay, I try to answer briefly. War really has changed my plans for my career, because before I thought a lot to move to another country, because I'm a screenwriter, and I thought that creative industries work better abroad. But after that, I want to stay in Ukraine. I understand that in Ukraine, creative industries at now have not many projects, and for me at now it's not a better opportunity to work with international agencies. But after that, I want to stay in Ukraine. I want to write about Ukrainian life, and I wanted to write something about this war, to explain this not only for Ukrainian people, but for people abroad. Thank you.
Thank you, Alena. I am scrolling through a number of very interesting questions, and addressing this to the audience. We'll do our best to answer some of them, but by the nature of our engagement, we won't be able to answer all the questions. A couple of questions here, and I will recombine them a little bit, focused on language and religion, for example. There were comments raised here that people heard that Ukrainian language is more spoken. Is it more spoken right now in Ukraine? Have people come back to the Ukrainian language and embraced it? So that's number one. I would like to combine it with another question coming from the audience, asking what would be the effect of the war on the Orthodox faith and churches in Ukraine? Any takers for the language and church? Okay, Bogdana and Dmitro. We'll try to be brief, right? So thank you.
Yes, sure. Very briefly, about spread of Ukrainian language. Well, currently I'm staying in Lviv city, and I'm actually the person helping some refugees. And I can really hear a lot of their asks, like, where can I learn Ukrainian language here? And actually in my city is provided a lot of free courses to learning Ukrainian language, and they actually try to speak Ukrainian language. They are being so curious about some words, especially of our dialect, because we have some dialectism, and they asking, oh, what does this mean? Because we are saying this. So they are really being loved with Ukrainian language more. And with religion, this is my subjective thought, because for me, some mask of patriarchy in Ukraine is actually being also one of the representatives of Russian peace in Ukraine. And I'm actually thinking it's not actually, this kind of church shouldn't be present on Ukraine, because it will continue to bring this Russian peace to Ukraine in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Дякую. Dmitry, a few words, please. Yeah.
As for nowadays, if we, for example, connected language and religion, I can say that as for me, I started to speak Ukrainian more and more often, even when I begin to chatting with my friends or talking them to the in the phones, because language is one of the most important keys that represent us like a nation. It's very important for us not to forget that from the large period of historical time, our Ukrainian language, always wanted to be destroyed. For example, by the Russian Empire. There was a really difficult situation, like, for example, burning books, different. Like MSQCast and some other things that was blocking our language for use. And as my parents told, for example, the Soviet Union, a large amount of people thought that Ukrainian language is like the type of the he always uses for those who lived in a country, for example, like in a not in the big cities, because they're always like the big city, like, for example, Kiev, Odessa, Lviv, Kharkiv. They always were Russian language, and those who speak Ukraine, they mostly live, for example, in the Oblast region, as far as I can assume. And nowadays, especially after Revolution of Dignity, when we began to rethinking and re-understanding what the type of nation we are, we began to understand that our language is one of the most powerful things that identify as a separate nation. We are not like Novorossiya, for example. We are not Russia Federation. We are not the part of them. We are as same part as, for example, Poland, Germany, France, and other free countries.
Mm-hmm.
we have our, for example, situations, we have our bad examples, good examples, but it's the language that still shows us that we are still separated from the others, and it's a good thing to keep proceeding on studying Ukrainian language, to use Ukrainian language. Yes, we have, for example, like freedom of speech and freedom of using different languages. We must remember that our state language is still Ukrainian. We use it, for example, in schools, in universities, in different public places. Why not to use it when you speak to your friends, to your parents, to some random people? It's as simple as in Poland, Polish people use Poland language. In German, they use their language, and that's that. And some words about religion. I think that Orthodox Church, it will. I'd like to say that we will also have some way of win the battle, because as far as you can remember, there was like Ukrainian church that directs to the Moscow Patriarch, but that's not in some way historically proved, and we need to make it in some way reverse, that we have our patriarchy, and for example, Moscow Orthodox Church need to be ruled by us. That will be in my situation like more historical representative than we have situation for now.
Thank you, Dmitro. Thank you for your efforts. Allow me to go through a few more questions here before we run out of time. As you know, displacement is one of the key outcomes for many citizens of Ukraine, and we know all displaced people nowadays are counted in millions. 10 million people are listed as displaced, about 4 million are abroad. A question comes from the audience. Is there a concern that many of the 4 million evacuees will not return to Ukraine after the war? And by evacuees, we mean those who went abroad, causing a huge loss to population and talent. Do you believe most will want to return? Bogdana.
Well, first of all, our refugees who evacuate, that's mothers, teenagers, and motherless kids. First of all, why they do evacuating? Because their kids are actually scared about the air alarm to awake at the middle of the night and go to some shelter or underground to be actually feel a little bit free, to not receive a racket over their home. I actually also saw through the questions that were asked that about Lviv is not really so touched. Frankly speaking, in Ukraine, we do not have any safe corner even here. If you can see the news, for previous days, we received some rockets through our infrastructure in our city too. It was actually not so far away from me. And yes, so about returning back to refugees, I'm sure they will return since they're letting their husbands cannot leave the border. So to reunion their families, they will for sure come. And actually, I cannot say like 100% to be sure about such things, because each family will decide well to stay by themselves. But in major cases, I'm sure they will come back here, because from refugees, with what I have they want to go back to their husbands, they wanted to stay there, they wanted to help Ukraine, and they want to bring this national spirit to their kids and to make them raise here in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wanted to read a comment to you from our viewers, and just let me find it. There's quite a few comments. In all three Ukrainian revolutions, students played the leading role. Students are that part of society who initiate changes. Glory to Ukraine, glory to its heroes. So I thought I will share that with you and the audience, as to how much appreciation is being expressed right now while you're speaking. The other question I wanted to pull out of here is a bit specific. What is current Ukrainian population's take on its oligarchs? You know, we had Kolomoisky, we have Poroshenko and others. What is going on with these, you know, powerful figures? How are they seen and perceived in Ukraine right now? What is your take, political analysts? And we will try to be briefly. Dmitro, couple of
You know, actually, after the full invasion of Russian Federation to our territory, they're like disappeared from all social medias. We even didn't hear any words from them. We know that they're somewhere aboard with their families, but we didn't hear from them and any comments on what situation is going now. They like disappeared. We don't know what they're doing now, what they're currently thinking. They just, oh, it's war. Okay, have a good day, and they just flew away. We don't know what is going on with them.
Okay, so that's Dmitro's reflections. Yes, I can relate myself being an avid news consumer these days, as many of our people in the audience. Let's move on. There are a couple of more interesting questions, quite a few.
We have Valeria.
We do have Valeria. I don't have Valeria. Okay, Valeria, I have to add something. Thank you, Alexander.
Yeah, I just want to add some words about Poroshenko. We have such a situation when he just be a volunteer for his social media. He just put a target in different social media, so that he is a cool politic, he is a cool volunteer, and a lot of our people really hate him for this. And after that, he just disappeared, as said Dmitry before. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for adding your perspective on that. Coming back to the students, but perhaps going outside of those who hold Ukrainian passports, any ideas about those foreign students who were studying in Ukraine? Have any state to support and help Ukraine? Sadly, many of their home countries do not support Ukraine. Maybe you had some familiarity with local foreign student associations. Bogdana, дякую.
In my university, we have a cathedra with foreign students. They mostly studied some biological science, technology science. So, well, by person, I'm not actually speaking or talking with them, but as far as I know, we have a bunch of students like them. And as far as I know, there are really a diversity of minds about this issue. I cannot say something by matter, because some of them just, okay, it's war, it's between countries, it's not my deal, and just waiting or just choosing the other university. And also we have the others who are really helping by donation, and with other help, they are also inviting our Ukrainian women families with kids to stay at their homes, and actually they're saying we will even support these families with some money. So actually, from my experience, we have a diversity of cases. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alexei, you wanted to add a few words?
Yep, just a few words. I know two guys, they are doing, I don't know what they're doing, but they're going to be like doctors, surgeons, and I know that they were involved by some hospitals, but unfortunately, due to some language barriers, they just help accidentally. So they don't work really like full time, but sometimes they help. But mainly their friends, like foreign students, they decided to leave Ukraine because like it's logical for them just to save their lives, is just to be safe at their countries. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. And then, of course, on the ground, situation is always more complicated than when looking from afar. There are families built, there are relationships created between foreign students and Ukrainian students. So this, this is worth exploring this particular question. I think we are coming to a point where we might want to just go through one more question, and I will focus on the one which is open-ended but interesting one. Why, in your views, why Putin has left Lviv relatively untouched? Do you think Putin's intention is to just focus and take over Eastern Ukraine? That is not an easy question, but yeah. But what are your thoughts on that? Again, Bogdana, you were first in my role.
As I mentioned before, we cannot be sure that Lviv is totally safe because we received some rockets not so long ago. And also I talk with some, well, it's not actually a secret, but in fact that from what we can see, that it's kind of hard to go closer to Lviv with other kind of technique than rockets. To make some huge destroying, as for example in Kharkiv or in Kiev, etc., because they need to be closer to through this. I'm not a military expert, and I'm not sure will I name these devices right, but some kind of things what are cheap for and make a lot of destroyed, they're not close to the cities to bring such a destroying. But in fact, as far as I know, it also were maybe a week ago, we read it from our local news, from city news, that, for example, some at night some rockets was flying and they just being destroyed by our protective system, and they do not make fall to into our city. And what is going to happen if we just want to destroy these rockets? For sure, our city also going to be damaged a lot. So our really strong army forces, our strong people are protecting our peace, the peace of our refugees, and they are doing everything to make at least some states at least more safer than other, but still we cannot be sure what is going on in the future. It every second can change.
Thank you. Very briefly, Dmitro, we're just running out of time.
About Lviv, I still think that Putin is in some way still afraid of NATO, European Union, and European countries. That he, for example, only launched several, by his for example, orders of the military, launched several missiles to the Lviv. And for example, there was a very very difficult situation in the Yavoriv polygon, where there were not only Ukrainian military, but there was some troops that they were training, and they in the future must to recharge the international legion of our militaries. And the other thing is that Putin's thoughts is that he will have in some way on blitzkrieg on the territory, for example, like that held on the left side of the Dnieper River, if we can call it, because it's like through the historical time that left part of Ukraine is in some way is pro-Russian, and the left and the right part is in some way like pro-European, and it's also we can see throughout history that the left part of Kazakhs there were pro-Russian Empire, and left part and right part they are pro-Poland. And he thinks that, for example, in Kharkiv region, Chernihiv region, Sumy region, parts of Lugansk and Dnipropetrovsk region, Kherson region, Odessa region, Zaporizhia region, he thinks that because these regions are more Russian speakers than others, and in his mind it means that they don't want to be under the Ukrainian flag and they wanted to be under Russian flag, and that is the main problem. He at the beginning he wanted to divorce us, but he didn't divorce us. He made us even more unique than we were before. And for example, our protest in Kherson, Nova Kakhovka shows us that they don't want to be under Russia. They want to be under free Ukraine. That's the whole point.
Thank you. We are coming to a very last minute here. There are a number of wonderful questions there. I still want to read a couple of more comments in conclusion. Thank you to all panelists, inspiring and convincing young people. These beautiful and powerful young people make me feel so proud as Ukrainian in Canada. We stay strong with each of you in spirit, soul, body, and money. And there was a question which came in very lately. I wish we had time to address it. I will use this question as an opportunity to conclude our event. Zelensky is doing a tremendous job, punching above his weight. Who is the next Zelensky amongst your generation? That was part of the question. And my answer to this would be perhaps one of those individuals right now amongst the panelists in a room. So maybe that visit today is an opportunity to learn something about the future president of Ukraine. But this, unfortunately, also means the time for us to wrap up. I wanted to thank you very sincerely for your time and for finding an opportunity to connect with us in this, comfortable Canada with, in my world, beautiful sunshine outside. We do understand the stresses and the level of uncertainty you're all in. We are with you. We are very grateful for the connection. We will stay in touch. And I wanted again to commend you for doing what you're doing, for finding strength to speak out. You are future diplomats, but right now you're student ambassadors of Ukraine. So thank you for joining Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies today. I'd like to thank also the International Association for Political Science Students Ukraine branch for being the co-organizers of this event, as well as Donetsk Vasylstus National University. Together with Contemporary Ukraine Studies Program, these are our co-organizers. Dear audience, thank you for joining us today. And Alexandra, if you have a few more concluding words, you're here to take over. And if not, you can.
Yeah, thank you, Natalia. Thank you. So I'm really grateful that we had a really good cohort of Ukrainian students today speaking about the situation in Ukraine, about the war that Russia has launched, and providing your expertise as the future experts in different fields, because we have received many questions today concerning different scenarios, and you were able to answer them professionally. And speaking about future possible scenarios from historical perspective. So it's a really passionate thing to hear how young generation of Ukrainians are integrated into the dialogue, world dialogue. And today we had a really good example how you as a future of different careers that you are pursuing right now, equipped at such way that in such way and at this point of your life. And for the Contemporary Ukraine Studies program, it was a really great opportunity to host you. And also to our online audience, please watch our announcements because we will be continue covering the situation in Ukraine, and next week we will have a roundtable about the fake news propaganda and also manipulations by Russia, both in Ukraine and also in the Western media. So please stay tuned, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.